Okay, so let's look at the first one, right? All we have to do on this one is take the square root of both sides. So we get x, the square root of x squared is x, right? Equals plus or minus the square root of 20. Notice I no longer have an x squared there, right? Because I took the square root, so the x squared is gone. Okay, now we need to go ahead and simplify this 20. So we can do 2 times 10, and 20 at 10 is 2 times 5. So we have plus or minus the square root of 2 times 2 times 5. Anytime we see a pair that comes out of the square root, so this equals plus or minus 2 square root of 5. And that's our answer. How are we feeling? Everybody's happy? Happy as a lark? Okay, look at number 4. So this one's a little different because we've got to deal with this negative 2 here. So we're going to add 2 to both sides because we want that b squared or x squared or whatever it is, we want it to be by itself. Okay, so we get b squared equals 48. And I'm going to take the square root of both sides again. So we get b equals plus or minus the square root of 48. Now 48, that is 4 times 12, right? And then 12 is 4 times 3. So I can stop there, or I could keep going all the way down to the 2's. But I'm going to stop there and bring those 4's out. So this will be plus or minus 4 square root of 3. Anybody have a question on that one?
I got 2 square root.
So how did you get 2?
So for number 2 and 4, for root 7, I got 2.
So 28 is 4 times 7, right? So the 4 factors down to 2 times 2. And as soon as you see a pair, they come out, but they become 1. So this becomes 2 square root of 7. Plus or minus. Okay, when it comes off the train, they combine to be 1.
Well, those came off the train, but you added a you multiplied them together.
Because for number 4, there's 2 pairs of 2's.
Oh, there's 2 there. Okay.
Yep, good. Thank you, Roddy. Okay, let's look at number 7. So what do we do first? Plus 1. So I have 81x squared equals 36. And then I'm going to divide by 81. Okay. So now I can reduce this before I take the square root, or I can take the square root first. It doesn't matter. So most of you probably did not reduce. So let's just take the square root. So we get x equals plus or minus the square root of 36 over 81. Now we know the square root of 36 is 6, and the square root of 81 is 9. So that equals plus or minus 2 over 3. Now, if you had reduced first, we'd have x squared equals, right? 9 goes into 36 4 times, and 9 goes into 81 9 times. And then if we take the square root of that, we get the 2 over 3. Okay?
Is the radical still there, like square root?
No, because once we take the square root of 36, the radical disappears. Okay, let's look at number 10. Let's subtract 7 from both sides. So we get 64p squared equals 49. So then I'm going to divide by 64. So p squared equals 49 over 64. So now we'll take the square root of both sides. So P equals plus or minus, what's the square root of 49? Okay, 7 over the square root of 64, which is 8. And that does not reduce. Okay. Jaden, what are you doing? Looking at your work? Isn't it on the paper that's in front of you?
Yeah. No.
But isn't that work on the paper in front of you?
I like to look at my pen.
Okay. Okay, so let's look at number 11. So in order to turn this into an exponent, right, we're going to do what's inside the parentheses first. So that's going to be 10 to some power. Now, it's going to be a fraction. The number outside goes on the bottom, and the number inside goes on the top. What number is inside? 1. This has an exponent of 1. So that's 10 to the 1/3 squared. Now what do we do with those exponents? Multiply them. So this is 10 to the 2/3. Okay. If we look at number 12, we're going to do the same thing. This is going to be 5 to what power? 1/4 to the power of 7. So we multiply them. So this becomes 5 to the 7/4. Okay. Remember, if there's no number inside, we assume that it's a 1. Okay. So we're assuming a 1. If there's no number outside, what do we assume it to be? 2. Right. Right. So what's this one going to be? 3 to the power of 1/4. Good. Okay. Number 14, we've got, and do what's inside the parentheses. So that's 5 to the power of 1/3. And then we square it. So that's 5 to the 2/3. Okay. Okay, going the other direction, putting it in radical form. Right, so we're going to have the 2 inside here. So the number on the bottom, where does that go? Outside. And the number on the top goes inside. If you wrote it like this, that's also okay. All right. How about this one? It's going to be 4 inside, and then that's to the 3rd power. And we can either put the 4 here, or we could put it outside the parentheses. Okay. How about number 17? What's that going to be? Good. Right? Perfect. Last one, 6 to the 1/2 is square root of 6. This you should know. This should be really quick and easy. Anytime you see to the 1/2 power, it's just a square root. Okay, so that should be quick and easy for you every time. Okay? Okay, so your quiz Friday will be like this worksheet. Okay? All right, we're going to start something new. So you need to take notes. So we're going to start imaginary numbers. Imaginary numbers. You were all supposed to say, ooh, this sounds cool. Let's try again. Imaginary numbers. Ooh, this sounds cool. Imaginary numbers. Ooh, this sounds cool. You know it does. Look at Drew smiling. He's like, what a great birthday present. Okay, So imaginary numbers are written as I. We put a little tail on the I so that we don't confuse it with ones. Okay. So an imaginary number is I. I is equal to the square root of negative 1. This is not a real number. Like we have our real number system that consists of whole numbers and integers and rationals and irrationals, right? Those are the real numbers. This is not a real number. This is an imaginary number, okay? It equals the square root of negative 1. So that's why we have imaginary numbers, because we can't take the square root of a negative number in the real number system, okay? So first, we're going to learn some powers of I. So we start with I squared. Now, if I square a square root, what happens? Like what's
Positive.
almost, if I square the square root of 3, square root of 3 squared, what does that equal? What is it? Not quite doubles it. Just 3. It's just 3. Look at it this way. Can you write the square root of 3 in exponent form? What's the square root of 3 in exponent form? 3 to the power of 1/2. Everybody follow that? Okay, so what do we do with these exponents? Multiplying. What's 1/2 times 2? 1. So this is just 3 to the first, or just 3. Anytime we square a square root, the square root just disappears. And it's just a number that's inside it. Okay? So let's look at this. If we square I squared, what happens? The square root disappears and it just becomes negative 1. I squared is negative 1. You guys should be writing this down. I to the third. Well, let's write that as I squared times I. Does everybody agree that we can do that? Okay, well, what's I squared? Negative 1. So it's negative 1 times I, which is negative I. So right now I have I to the first, which is I to the second, which is negative 1, I to the third, which is negative I. How about I to the fourth? Let's write that as I squared times I squared. Remember, when we multiply, we add the exponents. So this is I to the fourth. Well, what's I squared? Negative 1. So negative 1 times negative 1, what does that equal? Good, that equals 1. We're going to keep going. Okay. Let's look at I to the fifth. Well, I'm going to write that as I to the fourth times I. What does I to the fourth equal? 1. So 1 times I equals I. How about I to the sixth? Let's write that as I squared times I to the fourth, right? 2 plus 4 is 6. And I squared is negative 1. I to the fourth, I just figured out, is positive 1. Negative 1 times positive 1 is negative 1. Can you guess what I to the seventh is going to equal? Negative I, yes. How did you know that?
Is it pattern?
It's following a pattern, yeah. Look, it's following the pattern. So what do you think I to the 8th will equal?
I.
1. 1. I, negative 1, negative I, 1. Okay. Okay. I want you to fill in I to the 9th. Yeah, give me a second. I to the 10th. I to the 11th. I to the 12th. Yes, Chelsea, what's your question?
For I to the 6th over there, did you mean to put I to the 2nd of I to the 4th?
Yes, because that's how I got the negative 1 and the 1.
Okay.
Yes.
Could it be different though? Like, you can't do like I times I to the 5th.
Yes, you could. But it will come out the same answer.
It would.
Mm-hmm. Because if I did I times I to the 5th, right? That's I, and I to the 5th is I, which is I squared, and I squared is negative 1.
Okay, so it doesn't matter.
Nope. Anybody finished with those 4? Good. You should be finished. Look at the pattern. Look at the pattern. What should I to the 9th equal? I. And I to the 10th? Negative 1. I to the 11th? Negative I. I to the 12th? 1. It follows a pattern every 4. Okay? Every multiple of 4. But we don't want to have to rewrite them out like this every time. Like, for instance, if I had I to the 30th, I don't want to write it out 30 times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, I want to figure out how many groups of 4 are there. So I'm going to divide by 4. Take the exponent, take the 30 and divide by 4. Well, that's going to be 7, right? 7 times 4 is 28, with a remainder of 2. So this is the same thing as I to the 2nd. It's the remainder that we care about. Okay? We look at one like that we've already figured out. We already figured out I to the 12th, right? Well, 12 divided by 4. Oh, that's a bad one to start with. I'm sorry. Let's do 11. 11 divided by 4 is 2. 2 times 4 is 8, with a remainder of 3. So I to the 11th is the same thing as I to the 3rd. And I to the 3rd is negative I. So what we're doing is we're figuring out which of these 4 it goes with. So I to the 30th, right, was 30 divided by 4 is equal to 7 with a remainder of 2. So this is the same thing as I squared. So I to the 30th is negative 1. Okay. Okay, do I to the 21st. I to the 21st.
Negative I.
Okay, so 21 divided by 4 is equal to 5 with a remainder of 1. So this is equal to I to the 1st, which is I. Okay. It's just I. Okay. Okay. What if we had something like this? What if we had I to the 8th times I to the 15? What does that equal?
23.
I to the 23. Okay. So now we have to figure out what that equals. So we have 23 divided by 4 which equals 5. And what's the remainder? 23 divided by 4 is 5. What's the remainder? 3. Okay, look, let me show you a trick on you, right? You guys, you should know those math facts. You're just not even trying to think it through. You're waiting for me to tell you. I know you know what 23 divided by 5 is. Okay. Okay, look. 23 divided by 5. Oops, 4. Sorry about that. 23 divided by 4. Okay. All right. The decimal, that's your remainder. Here's a trick. If the decimal comes out to be 0.25, that's a remainder of 1. 0.50 is a remainder of 2. 0.75 is a remainder of 3. Okay. If there's no decimal, then it's the same as the 4, I to the 4th. Okay. So 23 divided by 4 comes out 5.75. So the remainder is 3. So this equals I to the 3rd. And what's I to the 3rd equal? Negative I. Okay. What's our pattern? I, negative 1, negative I, 1. That's our pattern. Okay. I squared, I to the 3rd, I to the 4th. Okay, what is I to the 71st? No, make it 74. I to the 74. What do we do? Divide by 4. 74 divided by 4. Okay? 74 divided by 4. All right, what's the remainder? 2. Good. So it has a remainder of 2. So this is equivalent to I to the 2nd, which is equal to negative 1. There you go. Okay? Now, we're going to use these i's to take the square root of those negative numbers. So the square root of negative 9. Okay? How many of you have watched The Christmas Story?
Oh,
right? Christmas Story.
We got
His little gun. Yeah. The Christmas Story, right? And then the movie, they're like, you'll shoot your eye out, right? You'll shoot your eye out. That's what we're doing. We're shooting our eye out. Okay? We're going to shoot our eye out. Okay? So anytime we see a negative number inside the square root, we're going to shoot the eye out. Like that. Now, what's the square root of 9? 3. So this equals 3i. We always write the I at the end. Okay. The square root of negative 36. What do you think that'll equal? Shoot the I out. And now we take the square root of 36, which is 6. So we have 6i. How about the square root of negative 18? Shoot the I out. And now we take the square root of 18. That's 9 times 2. Do we know the square root of 9? 3. So we have I, 3 root 2. Now we just have to put it in the right form. The I has to be at the end. 3 root 2, I. Notice that I is not inside the square root. It's outside. Okay? So every time you see a negative inside the square root, you take the I out and it becomes positive. Okay? Okay, there's an assignment on Delta Math that you need to complete. Okay. Delta Math, you need to do that
What's it do?
Friday.